Everybody. Welcome to our season 4, episode 2, if you're keeping track of our morning book buzz. It is March. We can't believe it's already March. For those of us in the Northeast, that means we are closer to spring, which makes us very happy. And we are always happy for you to join us. We have a special guest today, and it's going to be a fun day. I'm Kelly Coyle-Crivelli from Penguin Random House Library Marketing, and I will let my colleagues introduce themselves as well.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Fabian.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Mann.
And hello, I'm Summer Ogata. I'm the intruder or special guest, depending on what way you look at it, from Penguin Young Readers.
Very welcome, special guest.
Yes, agreed. As most of you know, there's a little key code on all of the titles. You'll see what what formats they're available in, and I know what most of you are looking for is that little orange E, and if there is one, that means there's an eGalley available in Edelweiss. So we hope that you will download request to download the eGalley. And as much as we have these events, we still have to cut titles every month from our list. So we will never run out of good books to talk about as long as you all keep participating in these morning book buzzes. So let's get on with our content for the day.
So we are really, really excited. We are once again hosting our Book and Author Festival. This is our Spring Book and Author Festival. Please save the date, April 4th. We are going to have an amazing lineup of authors that we're busy securing now, fantastic keynotes for both adults and children, panels for both adults and children from everything from debuts to book club picks to middle grade novels. And I hope you find wonderful things that you'll love, authors that you'll love to hear from, and of course, our booths that will have materials, downloads, and where you can chat with us about any question you may possibly have.
Also, we have coming up next week already our new season of Library Lunch and Learn. We love Library Lunch and Learn. It is a time where we take an hour. We hear from a librarian who is studied in this one specific field, or if their collection is relevant to this field, they talk about their collection and their programming at their library that fits with our topic. And we're starting off next week with a leadership and business edition, and it's going to be really fun. So we hope you will join us again for a new season of Library Lunch and Learn.
And if you still haven't heard enough from us about books, please join us on March 14th. We're partnering with Booklist to talk about great book club picks for the spring. Again, that'll be Tuesday, March 14th. We will send all the links around for registration at the end. We'll have a wrap-up sent to you, so you don't need to put all the tiny URLs, write them down now. We'll send them out at the end. But again, we'll be joining some fabulous other publishers to talk about the best books for spring book clubs. Please join us. And I'm going to turn the stage over to Summer from Penguin Young Readers. She's going to talk to you about a selection of wonderful books from their imprints that we think both young readers and adults will love. And I'll hand it over to you, Summer.
I'm still muted, wasn't I? I'm back. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much to the rest of the team here for letting me make a guest appearance today. I'm thrilled to be sharing 6 young adult titles that we think, we love them and we're adults, so we think your adult readers and you will also love them. These are written by award winners, New York Times bestselling authors, and generally are written by critically acclaimed authors that we want you all to know about. And in addition, the PRH Festival was just mentioned, and actually 3 of the authors I'm about to talk about will actually be at the festival. So you'll definitely want to sign up for that. So first is The Girl I Am, Was, and Never Will Be by Shannon Gibney. So when Dutton launched this book to us, we were so excited because we loved Shannon Gibney's first book, which was called Dream Country. That was winner of the Minnesota Book Award, and Dream Country was one of those books that sticks with you long after the last page. It's a hard read, raw, shocking, emotional, and still pretty brilliant. And this second book by Gibney is just as remarkable. It's a book with 2 sides. On one side is Shannon's real life story of growing up as a mixed Black child adopted into a white family. And then on the other side is the fictional story of Erin Powers, which is the name Shannon was actually given at birth. Through Erin, Shannon imagines what her life would have been if she were not adopted and instead a child raised by her birth parent, a white closeted lesbian and single mother. So basically, Shannon embraces the unknowable gaps in her own life story and uses her skill as a novelist to fill those holes with a slightly speculative twist. The result is a phenomenal genre bending exploration of race and the search for personal identity. And next is Enter the Body. So Joy McCullough is the author of Morris finalist and National Book Award longlist title Bloodwater Paint, which is truly an incredible book about art, feminism, and what it means to be a woman. I highly recommend it. So it comes as no surprise when Joy's next book was basically, what if Shakespeare's teenage girls had a proper say in their stories? First, you have Cordelia, and if you've ever seen a photo of a famous actor playing King Lear, he's probably holding a dead girl's body in his arms while he has the defining moment of his acting career. That dead girl, that's Cordelia. Next, Ophelia. You might not be super familiar with her character, but you've definitely seen the famous painting, with a dead girl floating in the water with flowers arranged around her. That's Ophelia. And finally, Juliet. She's probably the character that you think you know the best. The boy, the balcony, a rose by any other name, etc. But in Enter the Body, we meet these three girls under the stage as their stories are being told by men above them. But this time, they get to tell the story from their point of view. This book is written in both poems and a stage direction as a play, and this is going to be essential reading and an incredible supplemental text for any units or displays on Shakespeare. And Joy will be at the PRH Festival. Next, we have an epic fantasy duology from New York Times bestselling author Justina Ireland and the highly acclaimed Tessa Gretton. Chaos and Flame is a sprawling YA fantasy featuring ancient magics, warring houses, dangerous royal politics, and a romance between the two people in the world with most cause to hate one another. Darling is an orphan whose entire family was brutally murdered. She's the last member of her house Sphinx and owes her life to her adoptive father. But then when her father is captured, Darling will do anything, including killing each and every member of the house that took him, House Dragon, until she meets Talon, a young war general from House Dragon, and they will have to put aside their blood-soaked history and learn to tolerate and maybe even trust each other in order to survive. And Justina Ireland will also be at the festival in April. Next is The Quiet and the Loud. So Helena Fox's debut novel, How It Feels to Float, won not one, but 2 Australian Book Awards, the Prime Minister Award and the Victorian Premier's Award. And her next book, The Quiet and the Loud, is on track to be just as much of a success. So set in Australia, this novel follows George, whose life has been very loud of late. Her best friend is about to become a teen mom. The wildfires in Australia are burning hotter and coming closer, and her estranged dad has reached out to talk about the past. Meanwhile, George also meets a new girl and begins to fall in love. This book is about stories that we suppress and the stories that we speak, and the healing that comes when we actually voice the things that we've kept quiet for so long. Next is From Here. So some of you might know our next author as one of the central figures in a book titled Outcast United, the story of a refugee soccer team that changed the town. Refugee advocate Luma Muffley is here now to write her own story. As a gay teen in her home country of Jordan, she was forced to hide who she was so as not to risk her life. Being accepted to college in America presented an opportunity to break free and apply for political asylum, which ensures her safety, but causes her family to break ties with her, which doesn't make life any easier. And she slowly builds a new path and life forward with her biological family and her found family. Kirkus raved about From Here in a review, calling it a powerful, honest account of an activist's experiences of being gay in a culture that she loves, but in which it's hard to see a place for herself. Given everything that's going on in schools and libraries around the removal of books by and about queer and trans voices, this book is incredibly important and relevant, and we hope you read it and share it with not only yourself, but the teens in your life. And finally, You, the Story by Ruta Sepetys. So if you know Ruta, she's known for her vivid characters, harrowing plots, and meticulous research in books like Salt to the Sea, Between Shades of Grey, Fountains of Silence. I could go on. And she will attest to the secret to strong writing is embedded within your own experience. It's thrilling to present Ruta's first work of creative nonfiction, You, the Story. Ruta has created a deeply personal how-to book for aspiring writers, encouraging them to look inward and excavate their own memories in order to discover the authentic voices and compelling details that are waiting to be put on the page. Perfect for fans of Burn After Writing and Bird by Bird, Ruta awakens the emerging writer in her readers and demonstrates that with some reflection, curiosity, and courage, we all have a story to tell. Yes, even you. And Ruta Sepetys will actually be a keynote speaker at the April Festival. So you'll get to hear more about all of these books then. And that's actually it from me. So thank you so much for listening to me go on, and I will pass it back over to the team.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much, Summer.
What a great, thanks for joining us. That was fun to have you. What a great commercial you did for the festival. I don't think we planned that either, so that was great. But thank you for joining us today. And now on to some of the adult titles that we're excited to talk about. Hopefully you can't all hear my dog snoring in the background. First up from me is Flowers of Fire. Publishers Weekly calls it an invigorating debut, a full-throated rallying cry. And it's one of Miss Magazine's most anticipated feminist books of 2023. It's an eye-opening first-hand account of the ongoing and trailblazing feminist movement in South Korea, one that the world should be watching. Since the beginning of the Me Too movement, tens of thousands of people in South Korea have taken to the street, and many more brave individuals took a stand to end a decades-long abortion ban and bring down powerful men accused of sexual misconduct, including a popular presidential contender. South Korean feminists know that the revolution has been coming a long time. Now, the author will show the rest of the world that these women are no delicate flowers. They are trailblazing flames. Flowers of Fire takes the reader into the trenches of this fight for equality, following along as South Korean activists march on the streets, navigate public and private spaces, and share tips and tricks with each other as they learn how to protect themselves from harassment and how to push authorities to act. The author is an authority on women's rights. She was a sole correspondent for the AFP from 2010 to 2019, where she wrote about the lives of South Korean women more extensively than any other foreign journalist covering the country. And this is just in time for Women's History Month.
And the next book we'll talk about is Oh My Mother, a dazzling mother-daughter adventure around the world story for readers of Crying in H Mart, Minor Feelings, and Eat, Pray, Love. In Chinese, the closest expression to oh my God is wo di maya. It's an interjection, a polite expletive, and something to say when you're out of words. Translated literally, it means, oh my mother. In each essay of this hilarious, heartfelt, and honest memoir, journalist Connie Wang explores her complicated relationship to her stubborn and charismatic mother through these oh my God moments in their travel together. From attending a Magic Mike strip show in Vegas, to experimenting with edibles in Amsterdam, to flip-flopping their way through Versailles, this iconic mother-daughter duo venture into the world to find their place in it, and sometimes to rail against it, as well as against each other. There are hijinks, capers, adventures, but there's also tenderness, growth, and discovery. In telling these stories about the places they've gone and the things they've done, Wang reveals another story, the true story of two women who finally learned that once we're comfortable with the feeling of not belonging, once we can reject the need to belong to any place, we can experience something almost like freedom. An incredible memoir to watch.
Okay, next up we have Tomorrow, Perhaps the Future by Sarah Watling, an extraordinary account of the women, artists, and activists whose determination to live and to create with courage and conviction took them as far as the Spanish Civil War. It was the Spanish Civil War of 1936, surprisingly, that Sarah Watling found herself drawn to when confounded by the tumultuous politics of our present day. This was a conflict that galvanized tens of thousands of volunteers from around the world to join the fight. For them, the choice seemed clear. Either you were for fascism or you were against it. Seeking to understand how they knew that the moment to act had arrived, Watling sifts through archives for lost journals, letters, and manifestos, discovering a trove of work by writers and outsiders who had often been relegated to the shadows of famous men like Ernest Hemingway and George Orwell. From a variety of backgrounds and beliefs, these women saw history coming, and they went out to meet it. With profound personal insight, Watling reveals that their works are as relevant today as they were then. This is perfect for fans of unknown feminist histories like Fly Girls, Hidden Numbers, and The Correspondence.
Next up from me is Undaunted, How Women Changed American Journalism by Brooke Kroger. It's an essential history of women in American journalism, showcasing exceptional careers from 1840 all the way to the present. Undaunted is a representative history of American women who surmounted every impediment put in their way to do journalism's most valued work. From Margaret Fuller's improbable success to the highly paid reporters of work from Margaret Fuller's improbable success to the highly paid reporters of the mid-19th century, to the breakthrough investigative triumphs of Nellie Bly, Ida Tarbell, and Ida B. Wells. Brooke Kroger examines the lives of the best remembered and the long forgotten women journalists. She explores the careers of standout women reporters who covered the major news stories and of every conflict at home and abroad. She celebrates these exceptional careers up to the present, including those of Martha Gellhorn, our favorite ex-wife of Ernest Hemingway, Rachel Carson, Janet Malcolm, Joan Didion, Cokie Roberts, and many more. She chronicles the lives of journalists and newsroom leaders in every medium, and while she's doing this, a larger story develops, the nearly 2 centuries-old struggle for women's rights. Undaunted unveils the huge and singular impact women have had on a vital profession, yet still dominated by men. And she's an expert in this field. Her 2017 book, The Suffragants, won the gold medal in U.S. history in the 2018 Independent Publisher Book Awards. And her book, Nellie Bly, was an NPR Best Book of the Year finalists, among other books and mentions. So we are excited to read Undaunted.
And the next book I'm excited to present because I may have pursued a career in books, but my younger sister was a physics and chemistry major, so I'm very excited to talk about women in science. So this next book is Starstruck, a memoir of astrophysics and finding light in the dark, a memoir perfect for readers who love inspiring stories about women in science, like Lab Girl or The End of Everything. In this beautifully written, science-packed, and inspirational memoir, Egyptian-American astrophysicist Serafina El-Badri Nance shares how she boldly carved out a place in the field of astrophysics, grounding herself in a lifelong love of the stars to face life's inevitable challenges and embrace the unknown. As a child, Serafina spent nearly every evening with her father gazing up at the flickering stars and pondering the secrets of the night sky held. The daughter of an American father and an Egyptian mother, they both pushed her toward academic excellence, and Serafina dreamed of becoming an astronomer. But it wasn't long before she was told, both explicitly and implicitly, that girls just weren't cut out for math and science. In this book, Serafina invites us to consider the cosmos through the fascinating science lessons that open each chapter, but she also traces more earthbound obstacles like misogyny and racism, abuse, intergenerational trauma, anxiety and self-doubt, cancer diagnoses, and recovery, all that she faced along the way. As her career and passion for space brought her from UT Austin to UC Berkeley, and even to a Mars astronaut simulation in Hawaii, Serafina learned how to survive and ultimately thrive in a space that was seldom welcoming to women, and especially not women of color. Honest and empowering, Starstruck sits at the intersection of the study of our cosmos and the transformative experience of embracing resilience to pursue your passion.
And rounding out our Women's Voices category, we have They Called Us Exceptional by Prachi Gupta, where an Indian American daughter reveals how the dangerous model minority myth tears families apart and wrecks mental health in this searing and brave memoir. Family defined the cultural identity of Prachi and her brother, connecting them to a larger Indian American community amid white suburbia. But their belonging was predicated on a powerful myth, that Asian Americans, and Indian Americans in particular, have perfected the alchemy of middle-class life, raising tight-knit, high-achieving families that are immune to hardship. Molding oneself to fit this image often comes at a steep but hidden cost. In They Called Us Exceptional, she articulates the dissonance, shame, and isolation of being upheld as an American success story while privately navigating traumas invisible to the outside world. Tragically, the act that liberated Gupta was also the act that distanced her from those she loved most. By charting her family's slow unraveling and her determination to break the cycle, she shows how traditional notions of success keep us disconnected from ourselves and one another, and passionately argues why we must orient ourselves toward compassion over belonging. This is perfect for fans of Kathy Parkong's Minor Feelings and Michelle Zauner's Crying in H Mart. I'm very excited to kick off this next Bookish Books category with The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence, where two strangers find themselves connected by a vast and mysterious library containing many wonders and still more secrets, in this powerfully moving first book in a new series from the international best-selling author of Red Sister and Prince of Thorns. The boy has lived his whole life trapped within a book-choked chamber older than empires and larger than cities. The girl has spent hers in a tiny settlement out on the dust, where nightmares stalk and no one goes. The world has never even noticed them, and that's about to change. Their stories spiral around each other across worlds and time. This is a tale of truth and lies and hearts, and the blurring of one into another. A journey on which knowledge erodes certainty, and on which, through the pen may be mightier than the sword, blood will be spilled and cities will be burned. This is a fantastic new series, perfect for readers and lovers of epic fantasy, and fans of George R. R. Martin and Genevieve Cogman.
Okay, so all of our books are wonderful, but this next one just hits every note for those looking for nostalgia or escapism or charm. If you loved quirky, heartwarming stories like Lessons in Chemistry or The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry or The Midnight Library, or if you're one of those book lovers who's still waiting for your Hogwarts letter or wishing every time you open a chocolate bar or looking in every wardrobe just in case, The Wishing Game is the novel for you. Lucy Hart knows better than anyone what it's like to grow up without parents who loved her. In a childhood marked by neglect and loneliness, Lucy found her solace in books, namely the Clock Island series by Jake Masterson. Now, a 26-year-old teacher's age, she's able to share her love of reading with bright young students, especially 7-year-old Charles Lamb, left orphaned by a tragic death of his parents. Lucy would give anything to adopt him, but the idea of becoming a family seems almost impossible without proper funds and stability. And just when Lucy's about to give up, Jack Masterson announces that he's finally written a new book. Even better, he's holding a contest on his private island where 4 handpicked readers will compete to win the only copy. At age 13, Lucy had fled her unhappy home and showed up on Jack Masterson's doorstep, hoping to live with her favorite author. 13 years later, a sky blue envelope arrives with Lucy's name on it, postmarked Clock Island. For Lucy, a chance to read the first Clock Island book in years is a prize worth fighting for, but the possibility of winning, selling the manuscript, and securing a better future for her and Christopher means everything. But first, Lucy must contend with ruthless book collectors, wily opponents, and the distractingly handsome and grumpy Hugo Reese, who's the illustrator of the Clock Island books and Jack's only friend. The Wishing Game is a book that will warm your soul as Meg Schaefer thoughtfully explores themes of found family, single motherhood, sisterhood, and finding love when you least expect it. Who can say no to that?
You're not the only ones that add to your TBR pile during these. Sounds great.
And we know that this audience will love this next book. We have How Can I Help You by Laura Sims. The author of Looker comes this compulsive and unforgettable novel of razor-sharp suspense about 2 local librarians whose lives become dangerously intertwined. No one knows Margot's real name. Her colleagues and patrons at a small-town public library only know her middle-aged normalcy, congeniality, and charm. They have no reason to suspect that she is, in fact, a former nurse with a trail of countless premature deaths in her wake. She has turned a new page, so to speak, and the library is her sanctuary, a place to quell old urges. This is, at least, until Patricia, a recent graduate and failed novelist, joins the library staff. Patricia quietly notices Margot's subtly sinister edge and watches her carefully. When a patron's death in the library bathroom gives her a hint of Margot's mysterious past, Patricia can't resist digging deeper, even as this new fixation becomes all-consuming. Taut and compelling, How Can I Help You explores the dark side of human nature and the dangerous pull of artistic obsession as these transfixing dual female narrators hurtle toward a stunning climax. Perfect for readers of Megan Abbott, Mona Awad, and Otessa Moshfegh.
A burning library card. What more could you ask for on a cover?
Next is a novel for fans of The Personal Librarian, The Paris Bookseller, The Lions of Fifth Avenue, and The Alice Network. Pip Williams, the author of the best-selling debut novel and the Reese Book Club pick, The Dictionary of Lost Words, is back with The Bookbinder, a novel about the resilience of women in wartime. It is 1914, and as the war draws the young men in Britain away to fight, women must keep the nation running. Two of those women are Peggy and Maud, twin sisters who live on a narrow boat in Oxford and work in the bindery at the University Press. Ambitious, intelligent Peggy has been told for most of her life that her job is to bind the books, not to read them. But as she folds and gathers the pages, her mind wanders to the opposite side of Walton Street, where the female students of Oxford's Somerville College have a whole library at their fingertips. Maud, meanwhile, wants nothing more than what she has, to spend her days folding the pages of books in the company of the other bindery girls. She's extraordinary, but vulnerable, and Peggy feels compelled to watch over her. And then refugees arrive from the war-torn city of Belgium, sending ripples through the Oxford community and the sisters' lives. The Bookbinder is a story about knowledge, who creates it, who can access it, and what truths get lost in the process. And just as she did in the Dictionary of Lost Words, here too, Pip Williams thoughtfully explores another rarely seen slice of history through women's eyes.
I am such a sucker for book. Like, this is my slide. This is my cup of tea. Next up is a cozy. Read to Death at the Lakeside Library. We saw in the chat that we have to watch out for you librarians. Oh, we know. We know. This is perfect for fans of Jen McKinley and Ellery Adams. Summer is in full swing as tourists flock back to the North Woods and travel to Lofty Pines, Wisconsin. For Rain Wilmot, owner of the Lakeside Library, this is the perfect opportunity to bring back her mother's summer book club. But the summer starts to really heat up when one of the book club members, Lily Redlin, is found dead in her own home not long after the first meeting. Alongside her sidekick and neighbor Julia Reynolds and the charming Jace Lowe, Rain discovers that the murder is seemingly inspired by the book the club recently discussed, Agatha Christie's classic mystery novel, Sparkling Cyanide. But who would kill Lily, and more importantly, why? Blame it on Agatha Christie. Go ahead. Readers continue to flock to library-themed cozies and mysteries, and this bookish cozy set at a lakeside cabin will be a shoo-in for fans of these authors. We love recommending a quaint cozy, and this series is perfect for all of your bookish book fans. Next up is a book I'm super excited to read, The Book of Silver Linings. Constance Sparks always says yes. I know that is kind of like me, so that got me immediately. When her capricious best friend needs money, when her boss gives her more responsibility without a raise, and when her boyfriend Hayden, who is very kind, but also a little secretive, asks her to marry him. But while planning their future and struggling with anxiety about the right course for her future, Constance researches the history of her antique engagement ring and unearths the name of a man who might be connected to it, plus his tragic love story. When she finds a book of letters in her library's old manuscript section, written by the long dead man, Constance is deeply touched by his words and leaves a note for him confessing her uncertainty and doubts. She's shocked days later to find a response tucked among the pages. As the notes continue to arrive, Constance finds herself quickly falling in love with a ghost and putting her real-life relationship in jeopardy. Will a bond based on letters impossibly sent from the past derail her future? Or will Constance discover her voice and risk everything for the chance to somehow connect with her true soulmate? This is a perfect summer read. It's really perfect for fans of Rebecca Searle. It offers that little touch of magical realism, like The Dinner List or like In 5 Years that I couldn't put down either. And it's proven to be such a popular genre right now. So we hope you enjoy these bookish books. Oh, now on to some literary fiction. Also summer reads, maybe not as quick, but also wonderful. First up, we love when Gina Apostel writes a book, especially when it's a novel. And this is her first one since Insurrecto. And Gina Apostel assembles a vision of Philippine history from the 19th century to present day in the fragmented story of the Delgados, a family surviving across generations of colonization, catastrophe, and war. Rosario, a Filipina novelist in New York City, has just learned of her mother's death in the Philippines, but instead of rushing home, she puts off her return by embarking on a remote investigation into her family's history and her mother's supposed inheritance, a place called La Tercera, which may or may not exist. Rosario catalogs generations of the Delgado family, but each life Rosario explores opens up onto an array of other lives and raises a multitude of new questions. But as the search for this La Terza, the home that may or may not exist, becomes increasingly confusing and is this house real or not? Rosario's mother and entire Delgado family emerge in all their dizzying complexity. Traitors and heroes, reactionaries and revolutionaries. Meanwhile, another narrative takes shape of the country's erased history of exploitation and slaughter at the hands of American occupying forces. She's such a determined, brave writer, and this is going to be really powerful. And I love when a book explores a family history and a country's history at the same time. So we're very excited for this book to come out in May. Rachel, I think you might be on mute.
What about now, Kelly? Is it better? Okay.
Now you're good, yes.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. So next up, we have The Late Americans by Brandon Taylor, the author of the Booker Prize finalist Real Life and the best-selling Filthy Animals, returns with a deeply involving new novel of young men and women at a crossroads. In the shared and private spaces of Iowa City, a loose circle of lovers and friends encounter, confront, and provoke one another in a volatile year of self-discovery. At the group's center are Ivan, a dancer turned aspiring banker who dabbles in amateur pornography, Fatima, whose independence and work ethic complicates her relationships with friends and a trusted mentor, and Noah, who didn't seek sex out so much as it came to him like an anxious dog in need of affection. These three are buffeted by a cast of poets, artists, landlords, meatpacking workers, and mathematicians who populate the cafes, classrooms, and food service kitchens of Iowa City, sometimes to violent and electrifying consequence. Finally, as each prepares for an uncertain future, the group heads to a cabin to bid goodbye to their former lives, a moment of reckoning that leaves each of them irrevocably altered. This is a novel of intimacy and precarity, friendship, and chosen family. The Late Americans is Brandon Taylor's richest and most involving work of fiction to date, confirming his position as one of our most perceptive chroniclers of contemporary life. This is great for readers of Garth Greenwell and Katie Kitamura. We're very excited to have his latest book.
And next is The Wind Knows My Name, a new novel from the beloved Isabel Allende, inspired by current events, and for readers of historical fiction like Before We Were Yours by Lisa Wingate and Lilac Girls by Martha Hall Kelly. In this powerful and moving new novel, Allende weaves together the past and the present, tracing the ripple effects of war and immigration on one child in Europe in 1938 and another in the United States in 2019. Vienna, 1938. Samuel Adler is 5 years old when his father disappears during Kristallnacht. As her child's safety becomes even harder to guarantee, Samuel's mother secures a spot for him on a Kindertransport train out of Nazi-occupied Austria to England. He boards alone, carrying nothing but a change of clothes and his violin. Arizona, 2019. 8 decades later, Anita Diaz and her mother board another train, fleeing from looming danger in El Salvador and seeking refuge in the United States. But their arrival coincides with the new family separation policy, and 7-year-old Anita finds herself alone at a camp in Nogales. Intertwining past and present, The Wind Knows My Name tells the tale of these two unforgettable characters, both in search of family and home. It's both a testament to the sacrifices that parents make and a love letter to the children who survive the most unfathomable dangers and never stop dreaming. And next for me is Loot by Tanya James, the author of the novels The Tusk That Did the Damage and Atlas of the Unknowns. Set in 18th century India, England, and France, Loot is a spellbinding historical novel about a young man's dream of leaving his mark on the world. Abez is just 17 years old when his gifts as a woodcarver come to the attention of Tipu Sultan, and he is drawn into service at the palace in order to build a giant tiger automaton for Tipu's sons, a gift to commemorate their return from British captivity. Working alongside legendary French clockmaker Lucien Deleuze, Abez hones his craft, learns French, and meets Jeanne, the daughter of the French expatriate. When Deleuze is finally permitted to return home to Rouen, he invites Abez along as his apprentice. But by the time Abez travels to Europe, Tipu's palace has been looted by British forces and the tiger automaton has disappeared. To prove himself, Abez must retrieve the tiger from an estate in the English countryside where it's displayed in a collection of plundered art. A hero's quest, a love story, the story of a young artist coming of age, and an exuberant heist novel that traces the bloody legacy of colonialism across 2 continents and 50 years, Loot is a dazzling, wildly inventive, and irresistible feat of storytelling. It's a natural for book clubs, and it's sure to captivate fans of Jhumpa Lahiri, Zadie Smith, Yaa Gyasi, and Megha Majumdar.
So, at the request of my colleagues, I will be presenting The Rachel Incident by Caroline O'Donoghue. A brilliantly funny novel about friends, lovers, Ireland in chaos, and a young woman desperately trying to manage all three. Rachel is a student working at a bookstore when she meets James, and it's love at first sight. Effervescent and insistently heterosexual, James soon invites Rachel to be his roommate, and the two begin a friendship that changes the course of both of their lives forever. Together, they run riot through the streets of Cork City, trying to maintain a bohemian existence while the threat of the financial crash looms before them. When Rachel falls in love with her married professor, Dr. Fred Byrne, James helps her devise a reading at their local bookstore, with the goal that she might seduce him afterwards. But Fred has other desires. So begins a series of secrets and compromises that intertwine the fates of James, Rachel, Fred, and Fred's glamorous, well-connected wife. Aching with unrequited love, shot through with delicious, sparkling humor, The Rachel Incident is a triumph. This is for fans of Sally Rooney, Dolly Alderton, and Emma Straub, but I think nothing sells this book more than this review by Gabrielle Zevin, where she says, "If you've ever been unsure what to do with your degree in English, if you've ever wondered when the rug buying part of your life will start, and if you've ever loved the wrong person or the right person at the wrong time, in short, if you've ever been young, you will love The Rachel Incident like I did." And I am very excited for this.
That
Yeah,
quote's amazing.
It
that
is.
is amazing.
No.
That sounds great. Rachel, if you ever write a memoir, though, you'll have to pick a different title.
I know. I'm a little upset about it, but she can take this one.
That sounds really fun. Our last book on the literary fiction side takes us to 1964 Pakistan. It's a compelling, heartbreaking debut novel, and you know how much we love to find a new voice, about the echoes of partition and four friends whose dark secrets lead to a life-changing night that comes back to haunt them decades later. Rosina is running out of time. She'll lose her home, her parents' safe haven since fleeing India and the terrors of partition if her medical career doesn't take off soon. But success may come with an unexpected price. Meanwhile, the interwoven lives of her childhood best friends seem to be unraveling with each passing day. The once small and inconsequential differences between their family's social standing now threaten to divide them. Then one fateful night, someone ends up dead, and the life they once all took for granted shatters. Now we move ahead to 2019. Rosina receives a call from a voice she never thought she'd hear again. What begins as an ask to look after a friend's teenage granddaughter grows into an unconventional friendship, one that unearths buried secrets and just might ruin everything Rosina has worked so hard to protect. It's captivating and atmospheric. Under the Tamarind Tree shows us the high stakes ripple effects of generational trauma and the lengths people will go to protect the ones they love. It's ideal for book clubs and readers interested in themes of class and social division, international settings, friendship, family loyalty, and impossible romances. We're really excited for this one to come out in August. That is our literary fiction slide.
Okay, so I just want to take a quick virtual poll and ask if anybody was personally victimized by the American Girl announcement recently, please raise your hand. Because you may have seen some chatter online recently when the newest American Girl dolls were announced last week, and they are from 1999, which officially ushers millennials into the era of historical, according to American Girl. But they do know how to do it right with the perfect accessories and backstory details, and we just couldn't help but notice many librarians are especially taken with the iconic 90s Pizza Hut Book It set that twins Isabel and Nikki would have enjoyed. While no narrators have been announced just yet, you can introduce young listeners to twins Isabel and Nikki via the audiobook out September 6th, written by real-life twin authors Julia DeVillers and Jennifer Roy. We're also thrilled that Britt Bennett is back with the second installment in the Claudie series, read by Shayna Small. It picks up where Meet Claudie left off. Claudie is traveling from Harlem to Georgia with Mama and cousin Sydney to meet her grandmother and cousins for the first time. She hopes that learning her family's story will inspire her for the variety show she's planning to raise money to save the boarding house her family lives in. And finally, Girl of the Year, Kavi comes to life on audio this summer. Kavi Sharma is an Indian American girl growing up in New Jersey who loves singing, dancing, and performing with her friends. Between schoolwork, dance and music classes, time with her family, Saturday yoga, and hanging out with friends, Kavi has a full plate. Written by Varsha Bajaj, author of the middle grade novels and audiobooks Count Me In and Thirst. So very exciting American Girl news all around.
I hate to tell you, but you'll be historical for the rest of your life now.
Oh my gosh.
It's not so terrible, I guess.
I haven't accepted it yet, and I'm way older.
I remember there was a book that came out in the 80s last, I think it was Malibu Rising, and it was considered historical fiction. I'm like, what? That's not even possible.
Gosh.
But anyway, thank you all so much again for joining us. We will see you again. We're not here next month with Morning Book Buzz because we have our festival at the beginning of April, but we will see you at our festival. Hopefully all of you will join us, and hopefully you'll join us for Library Lunch and Learn next week. That'll be fun as well. And our next Morning Book Buzz will be on May 3rd. So take care, and hopefully spring is here by that day. And Summer, thanks for joining us again. That was really fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Summer.
Have
Thanks
a good
everyone
day,
for joining
everybody.
us always.
Of course.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.